Wildfrost is a deck building roguelike game. It comes off very strong in terms of presentation, but there are some key mechanics that might make or break the game for some people. Hey guys, welcome to my review of Wildfrost. I'll be going over a little bit of the story, the gameplay, and then we'll come right back here for my final thoughts on if it's worth playing. Let's get started. The story of Wildfrost is primarily told through lore panels that you'll unlock and read throughout the game. Basically, the world used to be warm and sunny, with many tribes thriving. Then the Wildfrost hits and everything was covered in endless snow. The existing tribes all had to adapt, some using their knowledge to endure the world, while others embraced it and are now using it to their advantage. You play as a random hero of these tribes, with the goal of adventuring out and figuring out the mystery of the Wildfrost and how to end it. The game is a deck building roguelike. You'll play runs lasting typically 10 to 40 minutes. This depends on how fast you play and how far you make it before losing. You'll choose a tribe member with randomized skills and stats. Depending on the tribe, you'll get a preset deck of cards. You'll then adventure through many encounters as you make your way across the lands. This is done through various nodes. These encounters consist of fights, shops, and other events like charm collecting, companion recruiting, and so on. Fighting works like this. Each battle starts with you placing your leader on the board on a 2x3 grid. You can see which enemies are there before starting. You then randomly draw 6 cards and play begins. Every time you play a card, it counts as an action and for the most part is a full turn. After a turn, you and your enemy's counters go down. Once a counter reaches 0, they trigger and effects occur. This can be simple attacks all the way to buffs and various debuffs. Instead of drawing and discarding per turn, you simply keep everything until you choose to ring the bell, which resets your hand. It takes up to a turn to do so, but if you wait for the bell cooldown, it becomes a free action. Tons of different card types are at your disposal. Items, which attack and apply buffs and debuffs, companions, which you can place down and they fight with you on the board and they have their own counters. Then you have clunkers, which act like structures for offensive and defensive purposes, and many more. As you defeat enemies, more will arrive either on a timer or when the board is cleared. Encounters end after the elite monster or boss is defeated. Okay, so that's basically Wildfrost in a nutshell. If you have played games like Slay the Spire, Monster Train, Across the Obelisk, then you can pick this up and you'll feel right at home. However, there are some things I do want to discuss at length about Wildfrost. It does really well, and then other things where I wish it kind of would have been changed. Let's go over the good stuff first. Alright, so right away, the first impressions, the presentation overall is amazing. It has that nice cartoony style. It's like a little bit of Adventure Time feel, colorful, well drawn, animated, and the music, not too bad. I like how even though this is a deck building roguelike, it has a little bit of a twist on it. You're not using mana. You're not discarding and drawing every single turn. No mana. You just have countdowns. And I think this is pretty clever because this is a tactics sort of game. So you want to really make sure which units are going next, and then you have to decide which ones you want to move around. You're continuously shuffling things around. And also that bell timer, making you use your hand and time as a resource rather than mana. Do I want to shuffle it now? It does waste a turn. Do I want to use all the resources, etc.? It makes you think. Continuing on that more, it's very, very tactics based. Lots of different strategies. Every time you play, you're going to get these random leaders that has different HP, different attacks, but more importantly, the effects. The counters are sometimes different, and sometimes they're a basic meat stick, they're a beatdown stick, or, they attack all enemies or poison them. You got lots of different cards. I didn't go in depth, but I love the charms in the game. Basically, these are modifiers that you put on any one of your cards, your leaders, or even your companions if it's applicable there. There's quite a lot of things to unlock. After each run, depending on the challenges that you complete, you have a town. Usually people would call this meta upgrades, but not really. These are just unlocking things to find in future runs. You're not gaining per minute HP stats or more like damage or more money per run. No, you're unlocking new items and companions that you have a chance to find in the future run. Let's talk about some of the bad things though. Now, first of all, I don't know if this was just the early build I played, but I feel like a lot of people are going to have a problem and be vocal about the very, very high difficulty. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I love challenging games. You know, I've done Slay the Spire, Ascension 25, and I love Across the Obelisk. That game is tough. But I feel like this game, it gets too hard, a little too quick for my liking. It's very easy to learn, but after just winning a couple of encounters, I found myself getting up to a gigantic wall, and the first time I hit that wall, I felt like, oh, the game wants me to lose here 100%, but no, after playing even more hours, you hardly get any stronger, and you're still hitting that wall. It kind of needs balancing, and it just feels like the numbers are insanely inflated. But as mentioned before, this is either a good or a bad thing depending on your perspective going in. I still had a fun challenge. Even though I was going in and losing, you're still learning, you're still having a good time. It's a good challenge. You know, you never feel like you're completely cheated out. Like maybe if I change up my decision this way or that way, because as mentioned, there is a ton of different decisions you can make. All of your cards can be used on yourself, on enemies. You can move people around, different things. There is a ton of options. However, I feel like some things are more viable than others. And once you hit that certain point in the run, because runs usually took me like 20 minutes, and then you hit that wall. Once you hit that wall, enemies would either have a gigantic HP and attack numbers or have effects that just counter everything. So it really honestly does need balancing that way. I would have much rather preferred if they kind of made it easy to get through and finish a run your first 10 times or something like that. Like, you know, because there's no way you're beating it the first like 5 times, but 10 times or so, I would have loved to have been like, you know, pretty close to the end, etc. And then maybe start doing ascensions that way. But here it's kind of blocking. It will block a lot of people out for sure. Besides the somewhat inflated, you know, difficulty there is the issue with unlocking stuff. Now in games like this, I love it. It gives you an incentive to play. The more you play, the more different things you do. Oh, new cards will unlock, new tribes. However, the way that they did it here, I really don't like it. I would actually call this forced challenges. So it keeps things fresh, but the method here, it's not great. Almost everything in the game has to have specific things to be done, all the way from the basic stuff to the advanced stuff. Now, so here's an example of some of the easy things. Defeat a certain amount of enemies, collect gold, right? That's very, very easy. However, some of the more difficult ones, I say difficult, but they're more of like chores, right? So you have to kill a boss with a very certain weapon. You have to hurt your own minions, sacrifice your companions, buy certain items, and then delete them. While it doesn't sound that bad, there are so many different unlock quests available at the gate, right? And you want all of those things at your disposal. So it inherently forces play styles. You can ignore it and play the run you want, but then you're not spending your time and unlocking things for future runs. This would not be that much of an issue if the game wasn't so inherently hard. You absolutely do need a lot of these new pets, companions. You need the variety to succeed, even in your very first runs. To give you an example of how troublesome this sort of system was, 4+ hours in, I was still finding myself sort of sacking and sacrificing these optimal runs because, oh, I finally found this event where I can do this quest. So I would like buy items I don't need. I would be trashing items. But this is crucial for getting, you know, even the most basic mechanics in the game, like, oh, new tribes, companions, and stuff. An alternative I would have preferred would, you know, maybe it kind of should have been like Slay the Spire or other games like it, in my opinion, where you just have a simple experience bar. You play the game how you want, all of the choices, making fun builds, and then you lose. After that, a little experience bar would go up, and once you hit it, depending on how far you want to experience, whatever, then you unlock just anything new. Or another alternative would be go as far as you can, collect money or different sorts of currency. Then when you get back to town, because, you know, the Wildfrost town, it does have lots of different sorts of item shops. Well, rather like just buildings, right? You can go into every building and decide where you want to spend your unlocks from. Because honestly, deck building roguelikes are about freedom of builds and choices. You're going to be spending the very first couple of hours, maybe even 5+, unlocking things and forcing play styles. It really sucks. And yeah, you know, if the game was more balanced, like I said, I wouldn't have an issue. But the fact that you have to do so many very specific things and you can't do them all on one run. You have to, okay, I have to try to do this here. Okay, I died. Well, let's start again. I'm having a good run. Oh, but there's this thing I need to do to unlock this. You know, it doesn't feel good. All right, so to sum up Wildfrost, it has a amazing first impression presentation. It looks, sounds great. Very fun, unique mechanics with this in the deck building roguelike genre. I love the tactics-based thing, lots of variety of builds here. However, high difficulty, once again, that's good or bad depending on how you see it. I feel like it gets hard a little too quick and will block a lot of people out from playing the rest of the game. Also, the big thing about unlocking things, even the basic stuff to advanced stuff, it's sacrificing a lot of the early game to kind of have fun later. So that's the sum up. So if you guys enjoyed, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you guys think of Wildfrost down below. Have you tried it yourself? Do you agree with these opinions, or maybe you have your own? You know, let me know down below. And if you're interested in watching the Let's Play, I'm putting all the gameplay on my secondary channel, link down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.